Hey everyone, ready to unlock some serious creative power? Today we're going to deep dive into a podcast script all about boosting your creative thinking. And you know what? It turns out even Lego gets inspiration from the most unexpected places. Intrigued? Me too. Let's get started.
What I find really fascinating about this script is that it tackles a pretty common misconception right up front. The idea that you're either born creative or you're not.
Right, like it's some kind of magical gift.
Exactly. But this script emphasizes that creativity is actually a skill. Anyone can train their creative thinking, just like working out a muscle.
Okay, so not some exclusive club for the chosen few. That's a relief. But how do we actually do that? How do we work out our creative brains?
Well, think about physical fitness for a second. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, right?
Definitely not, unless I wanted to collapse halfway through.
Exactly. Creativity's similar. This script highlights 3 key techniques for us to unpack: embracing curiosity, breaking routine, and mind mapping.
All right, so first up, curiosity. I'm all about asking why about everything.
It's a great starting point, isn't it? Instead of just accepting things at face value, digging deeper can lead to some unexpected connections.
I like that. So like instead of just walking by a weirdly shaped building, I should stop and ask, why did they design it like that?
Precisely. That simple question could lead you down this whole rabbit hole of architectural history, maybe even spark a new creative project.
That's a great example. It reminds me of something I read about Albert Einstein. You know how he was obsessed with asking why as a kid?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that constant curiosity fueled all those groundbreaking scientific discoveries.
And you know, Steve Jobs was known for his curiosity too.
That's right. It led him to explore calligraphy, which then went on to influence the design of the first Macintosh computers.
Wow, so curiosity is not just some fluffy feel-good thing. It's actually a driving force behind real innovation.
Exactly.
All right, so curiosity is key. What about breaking routine? I'll admit I'm a creature of habit, but I'm always up for trying something new.
Routine can be a creativity killer. When you're stuck in a rut, your brain goes into autopilot. This script suggests that even small changes can make a big difference.
Okay, like what kinds of small changes are we talking about?
Well, what if instead of going to your usual coffee shop, you tried a new one across town? Or took a completely different route to work?
Yeah, I can see how that shift in perspective could help spark new ideas,
It's like you're forcing your brain to wake up and pay attention again.
to see things with fresh eyes.
Exactly. And sometimes those small changes lead to unexpected encounters, new conversations, all of which can feed into your creative thinking.
That makes sense. So we've got curiosity and breaking routine. What about the third technique? Mind mapping. Honestly, I've never really understood how that works.
It's actually quite simple and far from intimidating once you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Imagine you have this big project coming up, something with a lot of moving parts.
Okay, got it.
So instead of letting those ideas just swim around in your head, you put them down on paper, starting with the central theme in the middle.
All right, so I've got my main idea in the center. Then what?
Then you branch out. You connect related thoughts, keywords, even doodles if that helps. You basically create this visual web of your thought process.
Interesting. So it's kind of like a roadmap for your brain.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how mind mapping helps you uncover hidden connections between ideas that might have seemed totally unrelated before.
I see. So you're basically creating a visual representation of how your brain is processing all these different elements of the project.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. But what about those times when you just hit a wall? You know, that dreaded creative block?
Oh,
We've all been there, right? Staring at a blank page, feeling completely stuck.
we've all been there for sure. And this script doesn't shy away from that. It actually offers 3 solutions for those moments when the creative juices just aren't flowing.
Lay them on me. I need all the creative unblockers I can get.
All right, first up is the 5-minute rule. It's all about tricking your brain into taking action. Instead of getting overwhelmed by the whole task, you commit to just 5 minutes of brainstorming.
Oh, I like that. It's like dipping your toes in the water instead of diving head first.
Exactly. You'd be surprised how often just that little push gets things moving.
Yeah, sometimes starting is the hardest part. And once you do, the ideas start flowing more easily.
Absolutely. Now, the second solution is changing your environment. Sometimes all you need is a change of scenery to get a fresh perspective.
You know what? That's so true. I often get my best ideas when I'm out for a walk.
There's actually some science behind that. When you change your environment, your senses are stimulated in new ways. It helps break you out of those habitual thought patterns and forces your brain to adapt.
And that adaptability is key for creative thinking, right?
Exactly.
So we've got the 5-minute rule and changing up our environment. What's the third solution for busting through these creative blocks?
This one's my favorite, and it might surprise you. It's borrowing ideas from other industries.
Borrowing ideas. Tell me more.
The script gives this great example using Lego, their brick separator tool.
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't love Legos?
Well, it turns out the designers were actually inspired by tools used in the construction industry.
Wait, seriously? That's so cool. I never would have thought of that.
Right. It's all about looking beyond your usual sources of inspiration.
So if you're a writer, you might look to biographies of real people for character ideas.
Exactly. Or if you're designing a website, you could study the layout of a museum exhibit.
Wow, the possibilities are endless.
They really are.
You know, this whole conversation reminds me of those moments when you're not even trying to be creative, and bam, inspiration just hits you out of nowhere.
Like in the shower while you're driving.
Exactly. Those classic aha moments.
Those are more than just random occurrences. There's a fascinating neurological explanation for that.
Now you're talking my language, brain science. I'm all ears.
It all comes down to what's called the default mode network.
The default mode network. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's basically the part of your brain that becomes active when you're relaxed and not focused on any specific task.
So when my mind is just wandering,
Exactly. It's when you're daydreaming, making those seemingly random connections.
while I'm zoning out in the shower, my brain's actually hard at work behind the scenes.
Precisely. Think about all those times you've been struggling with a problem, and then the solution just pops into your head while you're doing something totally unrelated. That's the default mode network in action.
That's pretty mind-blowing. So this script actually suggests scheduling boredom time each day. Like 10 minutes of just letting your mind wander with no distractions.
It might seem counterintuitive, but in our always-on world, carving out space for unstructured thinking can lead to some remarkable breakthroughs.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of always trying to be productive. But maybe true productivity means giving our minds a break sometimes.
It's about trusting your brain to do its thing.
I like that. I'm going to try it. What about when we need to work with others, though? Can collaboration help or hinder creativity?
That's a great question. And this script digs into that too. It turns out collaboration can be a powerful catalyst for creativity.
I can see that sometimes bouncing ideas off someone else can give you a whole new perspective.
Absolutely. Brainstorming with others can spark ideas you wouldn't have come up with on your own.
It's like each person brings a different piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And together you create something way more intricate and interesting than you could have individually.
And it doesn't even have to be with people in your exact field.
Not at all. Think about all the different perspectives you can tap into when you collaborate with people from different backgrounds and disciplines.
That's a great point. It's like adding all these different colors to your creative palette.
Precisely.
This reminds me of this one time I was working on a design project and I was totally stuck. I ended up talking to a friend who's a musician, and he gave me this idea that totally transformed the whole project.
It's amazing how those unexpected connections can lead to something truly unique. We've talked a lot about unlocking creative potential, but there's one more crucial aspect the script emphasizes: embracing failure.
The dreaded F word. Not something we're really taught to embrace, are we?
No, not at all. But here's the thing. Failure is an inevitable part of the creative process.
I know that logically, but it's still hard to stomach sometimes.
Of course,
Wow.
it's tough. But it's through those missteps, those experiments that don't quite work out, that we really learn and grow.
It's like that saying, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
Exactly. Or in this case, you can't have creative breakthroughs without a few stumbles along the way. What's important is how we frame those setbacks.
So instead of seeing them as failures, we should view them as learning opportunities.
Precisely. Each failure is a chance to adjust and come back even stronger.
It takes guts to put yourself out there, experiment, and risk failing.
And that's ultimately what creativity is all about.
Taking risks, pushing boundaries.
And knowing that even if we stumble, we'll learn something valuable along the way.
So we've really debunked that myth about creativity being some kind of innate talent, right?
Totally. We've dug into some practical techniques to train our creative brains, figured out how to handle those creative blocks, and explored the power of collaboration. Plus, we've even tackled the importance of embracing those inevitable failures along the way.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. And, what strikes me is how much of this boils down to mindset. It's not just about giving us tools and techniques. It's about empowering us to see creativity in a whole new way.
You're right. It's not about waiting for inspiration. It's about actively cultivating that creative spark within us. And one of the most interesting things we discussed was that concept of boredom time.
Right, scheduling in time to just disconnect and let our minds wander.
It almost seems radical these days, doesn't it?
It does, but I think it speaks to a deeper need. Our brains are constantly overloaded with information. We barely have a moment to just breathe.
And it's in those quiet moments, those daydreaming periods, where our subconscious can really do its thing.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what we're missing out on when we don't give ourselves that space.
I'm totally guilty of that. Always trying to be productive. But maybe true productivity means allowing ourselves time to just think.
Maybe the most valuable thing we've unpacked today is permission.
Permission.
Permission to be curious, break free from routine, collaborate, fail, and yes, even be bored.
That's a powerful message. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a question. What will you discover when you give your mind that freedom?
What breakthroughs are waiting to be unlocked when you embrace those quiet moments and let your subconscious take the lead?
Who knows what you might find? A new business idea, the solution to a problem that's been bugging you, or maybe just a fresh perspective on life.
The possibilities are endless.
And on that note, we'll let you go embark on your own creative adventures. Remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. So stay curious, keep experimenting, and never be afraid to embrace the unexpected.
Until next time, happy creating, everyone.
See ya.